Hello students, hope all of you are fine. In our previous classes, we discussed about the concept of justice, meaning, sources of justice, different definitions of justice provided by different scholars, and different types of justice. We have already discussed one of the type, that is procedural justice, in our previous class. Today we are going to discuss about another type of justice, that is distributive justice. The concept, meaning, and views of Aristotle, John Rawls, Robert Nozick, and Amartya Sen on distributive justice. So this is part one of the discussion. Hope you will like it. So we all know that justice is a value which is not concrete at all. Uh, Justice cannot be confined with one single definition. This is a very important value. This is a very integral value for any democratic state in order to preserve and protect the rights and liberty of the people. So, what is distributive justice? Distributive justice basically refers to the idea of fair share. It is about just and fair distribution of social primary goods and resources. Now, what are the social primary goods? If we talk about this, these are basically the rights, liberty, income, and wealth. So, in distributive justice, we mainly discuss about who gets what and whether all people receive their due or not. It is basically outcome based, and it basically tries to protect the community needs and rights. So, in our previous class, we discussed about procedural justice, and we found that procedural justice is basically process based, and it basically tries to protect the individual rights and needs. So, while procedural justice is closer to the philosophy or approach of libertarian approach or libertarian philosophy, distributive justice is closer to communitarian philosophy or communitarian approach. So, if we discuss about Aristotle's concept of justice, we will get that we will find that there are two types of justice according to Aristotle. One is universal justice and another is particular justice. So why it is universal justice? Because it is applied to all irrespective of any discrimination or any distinction. It is basically about obedience to law. And why the another one is particular justice? Because this kind of justice is applied to particular persons. It doesn't apply to all on universal basis. Though out of particular justice, there are two types of justice according to Aristotle. One is distributive justice and the second one is corrective justice. Now, what is distributive justice according to Aristotle? That the state should distribute goods, resources, and wealth according to the merit of the people or contribution they make towards the state. That means the merit of the people or the contribution they make towards the state may not be equal, and so the state should distribute these goods and resources according to that only, and that may not be equal to all. And in case of corrective justice, it is it restores what an individual had lost due to the injustice done to her or him in a society. And according to Aristotle, corrective justice can be applied in two cases. One is in case of civil transactions and another in case of criminal activities. So basically, this is the concept of justice in a nutshell of Aristotle. So when we go to John Rawls, who was an American scholar, concept of justice, um, John Rawls tries to define justice as fairness in his book A Theory of Justice, which was published in the year 1971. So in his Theory of Justice, John Rawls is talking about two principles of justice. The first principle can be called liberty principle. According to John Rawls, or according to this principle, the liberty of people, that means the liberty of thought, liberty of expression, or freedom of religion, or right to vote, or any political rights, etc., etc., should be given in a state to all people without any distinction, without any discrimination. So the first principle is, which is comparatively simpler, talks about basically this thing. And in case of the second principle of John Rawls' theory of justice, we can divide the second principle into two parts. The first part can be called equality principle, and the second part can be called inequality or difference principle. Now, what is equality principle? According to this principle, socio-economic inequalities are just if the resources or opportunities are open to all. And according to the inequality or difference principle, socio-economic inequalities are just if inequalities benefits all. So basically, the first part of the second principle of John Rawls' theory of justice, that is the equality principle, is more or less closer to the procedural concept of justice, and the second part of John Rawls' second principle of theory of justice is more or less close to the concept of distributive justice. So in case of John Rawls' theory of justice, there are two interesting terms, that is original position and veil of ignorance, which are to be understood. So according to John Rawls, people will prefer these two principles, the liberty principle and the second principle, equality and difference principle, if they are asked to be applied in a state in the original position under a veil of ignorance. Now, what is this original position? The original position is a hypothetical situation where people would not know their socio-economic status, about their family, or about any background. If under such situation, according to John Rawls, the people are asked to choose principles of justice for themselves, then according to him, the people would choose these two principles. They will want some facilities like liberty for all, and some facilities according to the needs. So while liberty would be preferred by all for all on the basis of equality, that is the first principle, this will be under equality principle, and some resources would be preferred to be distributed on the basis of needs. This will be under difference principle. Everybody obviously shall not be treated equally. So Rawls' first principle talks about procedural justice that is open to all, and his second principle talks about distributive justice, which benefits all. We can in the previous class, which was on procedural justice, we did cite an example of a running race where we were convinced that if we wanted to find out the speediest runner or the most deserving candidate, we need to set some rules and procedures, and we also have to ensure that all the competitors have followed all the set of rules. What are the rules? Like that at least all of them have to cover a similar distance, that they have to start the race from the same starting point and at the same time. So if we can assume that these are followed by all competitors, then we would be convinced that the deserving person will win the race, or the winner deserves to win. Now, till this point, we see the application of Rawls' first part of his second principle, that is equal opportunities to all. So now, suppose among the competitors of the race, there are some disabled person. Suppose some of them, they do not have one leg. So in that case, covering the same distance, the challenge to cover the same distance shall not be the same for all. Those people who do not have one leg definitely have to work harder and harder to compete with the physically fit people. So even if in this case, even if we set all the rules for all, irrespective of their differences, without making any discrimination, the end result would not look just or fair, because the amount of challenges shall not be the same for all people. So if we organize the race in that case and provide some special facilities, say for example letting the disabled competitors to start earlier, or reduce their distance to be covered, and then we start the race, then whoever wins, we could say that the winner deserves the prize or deserved to win. So basically the underprivileged or unprivileged are to be given special attention or care, which may sound unequal for the people who are already privileged, in order to benefit all. So that's why John Rawls argues in favor of a more extensive state, where the government is obliged to provide citizens with access to the needs that are basic to human life, and also to look after the welfare of those who are least well off. This includes state provided welfare education and health services funded through taxation. So by justice as fairness, Rawls means the set of principles that would be selected by persons in the original position from behind a veil of ignorance to the basic structure of society. Veil of ignorance means, because why it is called veil of ignorance? Because people will not know their position in the society or the economic status in the hypothetical situation. So John Rawls suggests that it is sometimes justified to treat people unequally, where unequal treatment results in improvements for everyone. Therefore, it would appear from all the discussion that Rawls is concerned with the benefit and welfare of the society as a whole. So in short, we can summarize that in the distributive justice of John Rawls, there are 4 pillars, that is equality, equity, power, and responsibility. Equality, because regardless of the status, everybody shall be treated equally. Then equity, that because distribution on the basis of need of the people. Those in greatest needs should be provided more resources to meet the needs. Then power, those who are more powerful will get lesser than the less powerful. And also responsibility, because group members who have the most should share their resources with those who have less. For example, during this lockdown period also, some people who are more privileged are providing help to the people who are suffering due to this long-term lockdown. So basically, this is about Aristotle's and John Rawls' views on justice. In the next class, in the second part of the discussion, we will be discussing about the views of Robert Nozick, who was one of the colleagues of John Rawls, and also of Amartya Sen on justice. Okay, so hope you will like this discussion, and if you have any confusion or any question or any remark to make, definitely you can write in the comment section. Thank you, students.